Caesarea Maritima is located on the Mediterranean Sea, about 40 miles to the north of the modern city of Tel Aviv. We had enjoyed our stay in Tel Aviv overnight, and after we retrieved the Fiat from the underground parking, we were off on another adventure. Long before you reach the entrance of Caesarea Martima, you begin to see the massive ruins. Over the years, this ancient city was occupied by different groups, but we are mostly interested in the Roman ruins, which date back to before the time of Christ. Mixed in with the Roman ruins are evidence of Crusader and Islamic construction. King Herod the Great built the city of Caesarea Martima, and his plans were big plans. Long ago, way back during the time of Caesar Augustus, when Roman engineers were dreaming about cities of the future, they weren't exactly thinking about flying cars or robotic dog washers. No, they were thinking about cities like this. Caesar's City by the Sea, aka Caesarea Maritima. Those Roman engineers were ordered to build the city of the future here on the coastline of the Mediterranean Sea. It was designed to be the most important Roman city in Judea. The city was a masterpiece of Herod the Great's building program, and it is now re-emerging, little by little, from beneath the sands and out of the water, as patient archaeologists do their thing. In 30 BC, Herod was installed as ruler of Roman-controlled Judea by Caesar Augustus. Herod was granted this parcel of land along the coast, which originally belonged to beautiful Cleopatra and her Roman lover, Antony, who Caesar had defeated for total control of the Roman Empire. Motivated by gratitude, egotism, or raw political ambition, or all three, Herod constructed a new city over the site in order to honor Caesar Augustus. It was completed within 10 years of the birth of Christ. This city would be the key to Herod's connection to Rome, and therefore the key to his power in Judea. So Herod spared no expense in putting together this offering to his Caesar, a man worshipped almost on the level of a god. Now, if you wanted to build a powerful Roman city in that day, you needed a harbor. People and cargo would travel to and from Rome in ships. Now, there was no natural harbor here or anywhere else along the coastline south of Haifa, so Herod built one. Now, Herod's technology, concrete that cured underwater, was so advanced that when the technique was lost, nobody figured it out again for centuries. The artificial harbor here in King Herod's City of the Future is believed to be the first of its kind in the world. To make the breakwater to protect the harbor, Herod's crews built huge wooden barges filled partially with concrete and rubble. The barges were floated out and then sunk, and the remainder was filled with concrete. This concrete was made with an estimated 18,000 tons of volcanic ash that were hauled here all the way from Italy, a distance of over 1,200 nautical miles. Herod's harbor was useful here for over 500 years. It was damaged by earthquakes and tsunamis, but 2,000 years later, Herod's concrete barges are still out there. They call it an underwater museum. A new city could not be built without a massive and reliable supply of fresh water. The nearest water was 6 miles away. By that time, Romans had become experts at diverting huge volumes of fresh water. So that's what Herod ordered to be done. King Herod had his soldiers construct an enormous aqueduct that brought in endless amounts of fresh water from the slopes of Mount Carmel to Caesarea. As you can see, large portions of that aqueduct are visible to us today. And as with so many other Roman building projects, it is functional, beautiful,
and huge.
Within the city, the focal point was the temple dedicated to Caesar Augustus, who was considered to be the son of a god. Caesar worship was mandatory for all Roman citizens. But there was also the typical assortment of smaller pagan temples in keeping with Rome's polytheistic tolerance. Though it made for a little slice of Rome right here in Judea, the same polytheism would create conflict with the Jews who chafed at Roman rule.
I'm walking at the location where Herod's palace once stood. Now, Caesarea Maritiма was Herod's best attempt at ensuring the Roman domination of the land of the Jews. It was the official capital of Judea. And it was the year-round home of Pontius Pilate. Now, Pilate did maintain a home in Jerusalem, but he was seldom there unless it was Passover, where he was there to make sure that the crowds stayed under control.
In 1961, an ancient building stone was found with Pontius Pilate's name carved on it. This archaeological find caused great excitement and is universally accepted as authentic. It gives me chills just thinking about its significance. The stone was placed by Pilate to honor the then Caesar Tiberius. Tiberius was the adopted son and heir to Caesar Augustus. Tiberius is mentioned in the book of Luke. It was in the 15th year of the reign of Tiberius that John the Baptist began his ministry. And it was thought that it would have been Tiberius's face that was on the coin when Jesus used the coin to answer the Pharisees' trick question, saying, "Render therefore unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's." The Pilate stone reads as follows: "To the august gods, this Tiberium, that is, the temple in honor of Tiberius Caesar, Pontius Pilate, prefect of Judea, has dedicated." And what you see today in Caesarea Maritima is a copy. The original is viewable at the Israel Museum.
This was not only the year-round home of Pontius Pilate, it was the home of Herod Antipas, the heir of King Herod the Great. This was the Herod mentioned in the examinations of Jesus prior to his crucifixion. Hey kids, pop culture connection time. Quick, Star Trek's Captain James T. Kirk's middle name is what? Yeah, it's Tiberius. And I have no idea what to make of that. I just wanted you to remember that an archaeologist found a stone here at Caesarea Maritima that places Pontius Pilate here during the time of Caesar Tiberius and therefore during the time of Christ. I didn't even learn that when I was working on my master's degree. You can use it if you want to. Caesarea Maritima was home to about 125,000 during the time of Christ and boasted some pretty impressive engineering achievements besides the harbor and the aqueduct. These included a sewage system, a temple to Caesar, a palace for King Herod, a hippodrome which could seat up to 20,000 people, and 2 amphitheaters, one of which has been restored.
Okay, so here's a little insider production info for you. Sadly, when we arrived Caesarea Maritima, I realized that my crack staff had failed to write anything for me about the huge hippodrome located there. So, being the consummate professional that I am, I read some of the information on the official plaque, and I decided to wing it. Let's see if you can tell.
And this is the hippodrome. Now, the hippodrome was built at the end of the 1st century. All right, so the hippodrome was built here for lots of entertainment. Lots of entertainment happening here. The ancient Romans behind me here used to race at the hippodrome. Hippos? Yeah, okay, so hippos. And a little known fact about hippos is that they're very fast and very dangerous with those big teeth. Very dangerous. So a lot of hijinks and Ballyhoo took place here during those crazy hippo races. Those crazy Romans. Woo! Oh, look, some ancient Roman plumbing.
Caesarea and the New Testament intersect at numerous points of history, both during the early life of and ministry of Jesus, which took place under the Roman administration based here, and during events recorded in the book of Acts. Although it is not mentioned by name in the Gospels, the influence and authority of Caesarea is ever present. Anytime the authority of Rome, Caesar, or Herod is mentioned, in fact, the power and muscle behind that Roman authority would have been centered here, not in Jerusalem.
There was a Christian scholar here in Caesarea during the early 3rd century who built what may have been the world's most important collection of early Christian scriptures and commentaries. The library is said to have had over 30,000 documents. His name was Origen. Other early Christian saints studied here as well, including Jerome, Gregory, and Basil the Great. Now, Origen was tortured to death here as part of a larger Christian persecution by Caesar.
An illuminating insight about Pilate and Herod is found in Luke chapter 23, verse 12, where we see that after Herod had mocked and abused Jesus of Nazareth and sent him back to Pilate, quote, "That very day Pilate and Herod became friends with each other, for previously they had been at enmity with each other." These men were political rivals here in Caesarea Maritima, the Roman capital of Judea, yet they became friends over the death of Jesus. Pilate wanted to be finished with Jesus of Nazareth, so he willingly consigned him to execution, thinking that somehow he could wash his hands of responsibility.
Au contraire, Caesarea had another huge role to play, not for Rome, but for the Christian faith. In Acts 8:40, we read that Philip brought the gospel, or the good news, at least as far as Caesarea. And in Acts 10, we read about the conversion of a centurion named Cornelius, who was stationed here in Caesarea. Peter evangelized Cornelius in fulfillment of the promise God had made to include the Gentiles into his coming kingdom.